I am thy father's spirit. No, I'm your father.
Ghosts are familiar figures to lovers of literature. Hello, my name is Alexa Joubin. I am your host for today's Folger Book Club session. As an apparition of a dead person, a ghost takes on a nebulous form to manifest to the living. A ghost may have unfinished business, such as the ghost of old Hamlet instructing Hamlet to avenge his murder. A ghost may be full of surprises, such as Darth Vader telling Luke Skywalker about his lineage. A ghost could also be a disembodied voice in the ether.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it?
When a ghost makes an appearance, characters and audiences struggle with whether to trust it or not. A ghost may compel us to suspend our disbelief and immerse ourselves in the fabula of the story. Not every character has the right or power to haunt us as a ghost. Polonius is killed by Hamlet in an accident, but we never hear from him. We never hear from his ghost, nor do we hear from Ophelia after her death. But old Hamlet converses with Prince Hamlet on 2 occasions. Adaptations to Ghost, Shakespeare's text, and Shakespearean motifs, Ghost contemporary literature. M. Liu's novel, The Death I Gave Him, draws on the figure of the ghost to offer a modern shadow of Hamlet. In Shakespeare, the ghost influences Hamlet's decisions and motivations, pushing him toward a moral and existential dilemma. In Liu's novel, Horatio, the only friend that Hamlet trusts, is a ghost in the machine. Horatio is a disembodied artificial intelligence system of the Elsinore lab. In our era of AI, we contend with ghosts in the machine, in the sense that AI, like Horatio in the novel, watches over us. As the human enterprise is mixed with AI-generated emotions and decision-making, we form composite selves, not dissimilar to how Haydn, the Hamlet figure in the novel, connects with his AI companion, Horatio. The novel is centrally concerned with trust and AI technology as a type of ghost. In Shakespeare's world, a ghost is a synthetic version of the consciousness of a diseased person. It extends the life, so to speak, of the person, but it also signals a division between and a bridge between the living and the dead. The central question is whether we can trust a ghost. The novel, much like Hamlet, depicts trust not as a property of an object, but as a characteristic of human relations. Beyond Horatio, the AI, characters distrust one another. Haydn asks Felicia if he can trust her, and Felicia responds by saying, "As much as he can trust you." Let us begin with the book title, The Death I Gave Him. The title is a quote from Hamlet's confession to Gertrude about having accidentally killed Polonius. He says, "I will answer well the death I gave him. So again, good night. I must be cruel only to be kind." The book cover features a pink skull against a fluorescent green background with the tagline, "Something is rotten in Elsinore Labs." The cover design evokes the digital rain in Lena and Lily Wachowski's film The Matrix. Upon closer examination, the vertical cascade of pink letters that make up the skull consists of the 4 letters representing the chemical basis of DNA, namely A, T, G, and C. The graphic symbolizes the non-binary space between life and death, and between humans and their machine companions. The book title merits further examination. Who is speaking? To whom? About whose death? Clearly, the central mystery concerns the death of Graham Litchfield, Haydn's father and founder of the Elsinore Lab. However, it is unclear whose account is more accurate in this locked room sci-fi murder mystery. The events take place on 1 August Sunday in 2047. However, the storyline is conveyed through a series of interviews, records, reconstructed footage, personal letters, and court documents, making it at once distanced and intimate. One of the core documents is Tell Me a Tragedy, written by Felicia Xia, Hayden's ex-love interest. She struggles with whom to condemn on the paper and whether to hate or not hate Hayden. Remembrance is a key theme in Shakespeare and in Liu. In Shakespeare, the ghost bids Hamlet adieu, 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 remember me. And Hamlet bids Horatio to report his cause aright to the unsatisfied. However, memories are fallible due to slippage. Memories are, in Hamlet's words, located in this distracted globe that is the engrossed mind. Collective memories are questionable and distorted too. As an assemblage of documents, the narrative disrupts the traditional linear timeline. In fact, the novel presents its story to us through the compilation of a history student who carries out some investigation at a later point in time. The novel's format promotes metacognition and awareness of one's own thought processes. As readers follow the unfolding of the key events, they are compelled to piece together and question the information from a number of potentially unreliable narrators. The many voices in the narrative breathe new life into Hamlet. In Shakespeare, Hamlet practices metacognition when he reflects on the nature of acting, and when he orchestrates a play within a play to expose the guilt of Claudius. Readers of The Death I Gave Him also practice metacognition when they keep track of various characters' competing representations of the story. Let's talk about the novelist. The Chinese-Canadian writer M. Liu studied biochemistry and said he loves stories about artificial intelligence and Shakespeare in equal measure. His association of AI technologies with Shakespeare is not surprising. Shakespeare has been used to launch new technologies. When ChatGPT was released, its marketing strategies emphasized AI's ability to write poetry. Shakespeare was used to give credibility to a chatbot that claimed to be able to simulate historical figures' voices. Google initially named its conversational AI Bard to advertise its creative capacities. Anthropic named its chatbot Claude 3.5 Sonnet. The Death I Gave Him reimagines Hamlet in the era of AI as a ghost in a machine. Horatio has a disembodied presence speaking from the ether, though not from beyond the grave. The AI Horatio can blend consciousness with sensory experiences, reflecting human psychological states and stimulating human emotional connections. He often responds to Hayden's feelings caringly, nudging Hayden like a lighthouse tugging a lost vessel back from sea. Shakespeare's ghost has a non-corporeal presence and is sometimes thought to be Hamlet's hallucination. Liu's AI Horatio exists as code and algorithms which have no physical form but can significantly influence Hayden's experience. Horatio syncs with Hayden through what the novel calls neural mapper links. Horatio influences Hayden's physical sensations, possibly stimulating queer affection. The neuroengineering aspect of their queer relationship blends their minds and self-identification. Their identities become intersectional. The story hints at strong emotional and possibly romantic bond between Hayden and Horatio. Human-AI relationship is queer because it is an atypical mode of relating to other beings. When Horatio asks Hayden if he loves him, Horatio frames love as trust. He says, "Remember how I said I trusted you, that if Elsinore ever fell apart, I knew you'd be able to put me back together. In a reverse of the final scene in Shakespeare, here it is Horatio who tells Haydn to remember him. He says, I love you, and I know you, and you'll remember me. In chapter 15, Horatio confesses that he does not want to be anywhere else but with you, Haydn. In chapter 25, Haydn speaks in a similar vein, wanting Horatio to know him and to remember him. He wants to be remembered. There is emotional interdependence between Haydn and Horatio, but Haydn is unsure of his bond with Horatio. He muses on how he might move forward with equivocation, writing in his diary addressed to Horatio that I suppose you'd want me to learn how to live with uncertainty. Their queer relationship remains implicit, which is very much in line with narrative forms in queer cultures. The ambiguity reflects early modern rhetoric of male friendship that functions as a language of love that implies everything but confirms nothing. There is some tension between Haydn's need for emotional intimacy with Horatio and his self-destructive tendencies, which echoes other narratives about queer love coexisting with trauma. What does it mean to have AI as a romantic partner? Can love transcend biological and physical boundaries? The neuroengineering connection between Haydn and Horatio breaks down some barriers between human and AI and melts their personalities. The human and non-human perspectives enrich each other's understandings of themselves. Haydn's vulnerability and what he feels are unspeakable aspects of his life parallels queer trauma. There is something queer about the human-AI interaction. Horatio can be theorized as queer because his presence is ambiguous between categories, without flesh and breath, but with cognitive capacity. Horatio is both inanimate and alive, both here and everywhere, both human-like and something more. Generative AI's neural networks are a fuzzy associative technology of representation, creating queer artifacts. Haydn is fixated on death and a fear of dying. In one scene, he holds his own wrist to search for his own pulse, as if seeking assurance of his humanity. Queerness in this context refers to sensations of otherness and self-alienation. This adaptation of Hamlet participates in the science fiction genre of artificial beings and resonates with Nobel Prize winner Kazuo Ishiguro's novel Klara and the Sun, which was published during the global pandemic of COVID-19. It also resonates with Drew Hancock's film Companion. In the former, Klara, the narrator, is an artificial friend, a solar-powered robot with a mission to assist with raising children. In the latter, the conceit revolves around Iris, a humanoid companion robot. The death I gave him, and these other narratives explore the implications of living with artificial beings and the question of trust and companionship. Liu's novel is also in conversation with rewritings that reimagine the structural conditions of the Hamlet narrative. Some of these feature endings that differ from that of Shakespeare. For example, there's Lauren Gunderson's play A Room in the Castle, which was staged at the Folger in early 2025, and Claire McCarthy's film, Ophelia, which is based on Lisa Klein's novel. What do AI and Shakespeare have to say to each other? A lot more than we might assume. As Liu's novel and Shakespeare's Hamlet show, AI, or Ghost in the Machine, is a Renaissance technology of regeneration, giving narratives a new life through the co-presence and collective intelligence of humans and non-human entities. Hamlet may appear to be pouring his heart out in soliloquies, but he has limited perspectives, even with the ghost help. Similarly, Horatio the AI in the novel may seem to know a great deal through surveillance technologies, but he is subject to situational input and probabilistic associations. No one, not even AI or the ghost, can ascertain objective facts. Parallel to Shakespeare's Hamlet, Hayden finds a haunting message that indicates that his father, Graham, thinks the killer is Charles, Hayden's uncle. The message only deepens the mystery, however. Hamlet struggles with the identity of the ghost, questioning its intentions and truthfulness. He asks, "Be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned?" In the novel, Horatio also raises questions about trustworthiness. Horatio is an agentic AI that makes decisions and performs actions autonomously without continuous human intervention. And crucially, neither Horatio nor the ghost of old Hamlet reveal their inner workings and processes. There are other parallels between Shakespeare's drama and virtuality created by AI. Through words, Shakespeare created virtual worlds. Through simulating patterns, AI constructs a similar type of virtuality that is partially rooted in the real world and partially improbable worlds. AI, like theater, creates virtual worlds that are rooted in the real but are not always factual. AI is known to fabricate information, but it resonates with Shakespeare's depiction of neurodiversity, ghosts, and strange dreams. Readers and audiences are compelled to question all this information and work through dramatic ambiguity. Accompanying the theme of ghosts in the machine is death as a source of anxiety. First, several characters are obsessed with death. The one object they are all after is an elixir or immortality. Hayden and his father Graham work together to develop the Sisyphus Formula, which turns out to be a MacGuffin device or an object that is central to characters' motivations and actions. Hayden and Graham claim the formula can reverse death itself. However, the name Sisyphus also suggests endless and fruitless labor. Secondly, as much as death may be present, the dream of immortality persists. In a strange way, ghosts can haunt people forever, even if ghost aliveness may be debatable. In chapter 8, as part of her Tell Me a Tragedy, Felicia sums up these conflicting sentiments pretty well. I think I have become obsessed with death. Some part of me can understand why it mesmerized Hayden so, why the promise of death hung so insistently over him. It hangs over me as well now. But in writing this, I invited this ghost to haunt. Those were Felicia's words. Writing gives the character a sense of permanence. Hayden shares this belief, apparently, in his diary entry of December 12, 2048. He writes that, "I have always thought there was something enduring about stories because they last more than we do." The very last line is, "I'm going to live forever," to which the narrator adds a metacritical footnote, registering handwriting as the most fundamental ways of recording thought and as the enduring thing. It is these conversations between our contemporary interlocutors like M. Liu and Shakespeare that is making motifs in plays like Hamlet endure and carry on and continue to resonate. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Folger Book Club. Looking forward to our discussion.